All right, welcome gentlemen. How are we all going today? Same David, how are we going? You all right?
Yeah, good again, yeah. On the up.
Good again, yeah. As before. All right, so this one, our last topic for the day is IFS Suspension, which is independent front suspension. That's out of AUR 30620. So, going to cover all things suspension. Before we get going, like I said before, toilet out there to your left, drinks and food are up there. So, anytime you need to have a quick break, just let me know and we'll put the brakes on for a minute and you can do your thing. But has anybody heard much about IFS suspension or done any previous studies on it, or it's a first for everybody?
Yeah.
Good, okay. So IFS suspension, it stands for independent front suspension, a vehicle suspension system where each front wheel moves up and down independently of the other. This design using control arms allows for a more comfortable ride and better handling, especially on paved roads due to reduced unsprung weight. So you'll find this is more about I'm going to do it more about four-wheel drives, just so, because that's sort of my background, and I know a bit more about that than just your everyday passenger car, but they're all sort of the same in a way. So before we start, I've got a little quiz I'd like you guys to have a look at. So there's no expectations here to get them all right or whatever, just to see if you guys have half a clue before we get stuck into learning about all this stuff. So hopefully, fingers crossed, by the end we'll be able to know what's what and tell someone else about it. So take 5 minutes. Everyone's got pens and that sort of stuff? Yeah, cool. And see how you go. So who here's got a four-wheel drive again? Joe does? What's yours? No, two-wheeler, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, okay. And Blake's got the Hiroshima Screamer. Thanks, mate. Quick out of the blocks there. Beat you.
Oh,
Is this you scribbling? Just make sure.
Oh, no, that's
yeah, that's what I did exactly.
I'll do it on.
Sweet as. Any of these questions making sense, or is it all scary?
Lots of guesses.
Lots of guesses.
Lots of guesses.
Guesses
They're
are
all
alright.
right, yeah.
Hopes and dreams.
That's another quiz. Not too scared of hopes and dreams. Alright, beautiful. So, I'm going to cover again a fair bit. There's a bit going on with IFS. So this isn't anything to do with the rear suspension at all. I might drop a few things in there, but it's highly unlikely. So we're going to cover all this stuff here. So you're going to do the coil spring, the strut and shock. They're same, but slightly different, which I'll get to. Ball joints, bushings, torsion bar front ends, which are a little bit outdated nowadays, but it's still worth a mention. Upper and lower control arms, sway bars, and the sway bar link rods. So all those components together make for a nice suspension system. So that's kind of what it looks like in the car, if you can read all that, but probably not. So the first thing is going to be coil springs. Excuse me. So coil spring for a 4x4 is a helical steel bar designed to absorb shock, provide wheel travel, and maintain tire contact for improved traction and control on varied terrain. So basically that just starts as a really long piece of steel in a metal shop. It is heated up, wound around with a special tool or machine, and that's what it ends up looking like. And obviously different companies will paint in whatever colour they want. Another thing that also does, is it's not mentioned there, it maintains the height. So in the four-wheel drive game, obviously a lot of people throw on bull bars and accessories, which makes the car quite heavy. So what you'll do there is you'll see the front suspension start to drop down. We call it sagging, which is not obviously ideal. So when you buy a car brand new from the factory with no accessories, that front spring is set for that weight and that sort of weight only, not really giving any leeway for heavier accessories. So what we recommend, or what you should do, but we highly recommend, is if you do put accessories on your four-wheel drive, you upgrade the springs to suit. So there's 3 or 4 different options. So if you get an alloy bull bar that's probably weighs about 15 to 20 kilos, or a nudge bar, you just go up one size, or one level, I suppose you call it. Then you've got a medium level bar after that, which is for a steel bar on its own, because they weigh anywhere from 80 to 100, sometimes more kilograms, so they're quite a heavy piece of gear on the very front of your car. So that's going to take its toll. And if it's overweight, the tyres will start to scrub in or scrub out depending on what's going on. So that's another cost that you have to wear eventually. And then the last one, if you've got a bull bar, a wings, the spotlights, all the gear, bash plates, you're going to want to go for the heaviest style of spring, which keeps the ride height high, maintaining that 2 inch or 3 inch, whatever you decide to put in it, and also keeps everything nice and safe. Because obviously, if you have an overweighted vehicle with the wrong springs, it's bouncy, things can bottom out and things can break. We've seen springs snap and all sorts of things at work, so it's a bit of a must. So that's a spring, and you can sort of see there, kind of it's wrapped around the shock or strut. So I'm going to explain that now. So the front strut assembly in a 4x4 is an engineered suspension component that dampens bumps, supports the vehicle's weight, and provides structural support for the wheel and chassis. So this is a strut up here. So strut this one, and that's a shock. So it'll look exactly the same, they're the exact same thing, but you'll see on the strut it's got this little seat, we call it here. So what that does is the spring goes on one way, and this is the bottom of the spring here. I don't know why it's upside down, but that happens. So you flip that over, and that goes over the top of your strut, and there's a little cutout there on one of those sides. I can't quite see which side it is, and the spring sits in there flush, okay, and that's so it can't move, right? And then once that spring's in there, you can press the spring down with a special machine, put your top hat on, which I'll go through later. I've got a top hat coming up down the road here, and that keeps the spring steady in there so it can't move around, and that's how in most four-wheel drives an IFS system works. So you've got your spring, so that's the very bottom there, that black piece is on the strut, and that's the seat of the strut, so that's where the spring will sit for its whole time. And then the shock, if you've got a torsion bar front end, this is what you're going to have, just a plain shock. So bush down the bottom, right, up to a bush at the top, and these are different washers and nuts and stuff like that, and they do the same job, but they've just decided on the IFS coil over strut system that's just going to help the springs going to go over the strut, and this one just in between the chassis and the diff, so that one's all good. So shock absorber is a durable hydraulic device that controls the movement of the front suspension, ensuring ride comfort and stability by absorbing and dissipating energy from impacts and vibrations. So again, they do the exact same sort of thing, but slightly different style, having the spring over it as opposed to not. So ball joints. Ball joint, we'll start with that one first, is a spherical bearing connecting the control arms to the steering knuckle, allowing the suspension to move vertically and the wheels to pivot for steering. So inside here is this little bearing all the way in there, and this shaft is tapered, which means it's on a slight sort of angle on the way up. And what that does is you pump it full of grease, keep it all lubricated, like it says here, it's just vertically moving around to keep things going. If they get dry, they can get a bit of play and a bit of knock, that's when you replace them. And this pin here, if this is in an upper control arm, let's say, which we'll get to soon, you put it through the arm, this little lip here is where you put the clip around so it can't go anywhere. This pin, once it's done up tight, will go through. That's a castle nut, so it means it's got holes cut in the side of it. Pin goes through, fold it over so it can't do it, undo itself. And bushes, so just a quick little look here. On the bottoms of both of these round holes here, that's where your bushes are. From factory, there are rubber bush with a metal sleeve and a metal casing, so there's lots of different variations of those now, but that's for the most part what you're going to see. A bushing is a shock absorbing component in the vehicle suspension system, typically made of rubber or polyurethane, designed to connect rigid metal parts while absorbing impacts and vibrations from the road and or off-road terrain. So not much to say with bushings, but they do sort of split between these two pieces of metal here, and that's when it's time to replace things. But like they say here, or polyurethane, it's a lot stronger and has more play and a bit more flex. So if you're doing things like lifting your car up a fair bit, you now have a bit more articulation and flex, so you can actually walk over those rocks you're trying to do. Okay, torsion bar. So this is a bit of an outdated one. These are on like 105 series cruisers and D22 Navaros. Not so much common anymore, but they did serve a purpose for many years. So a torsion bar is a steel rod used in the vehicle's front suspension that acts as a spring by twisting and untwisting tools or road impacts and support the vehicle's weight. So what you can kind of see in this photo here, if you're lucky, is pretty small, but this long rod, it's a long one, so it goes to the chassis, it's mounted there, and how you adjust that, there's a bolt back here going up with a couple of nuts on top, so one being a locking nut and one the adjusting nut. So you wind that up, and that'll raise the car up, and it sticks in here to the front of your lower control arm in this system. So what that does is it twists it, which lifts the car up, and obviously if you undo it, it'll let the car down. So I see this day in, day out. People wind them up that far that the car is pretty much undrivable, has no flex, and is just stiff as a board. But, you know, I have not much to do with them, but they're being phased out. I haven't seen one in a lot of years on anything relatively new, so I think they're just sort of trying to get rid of them because other systems work fine, but they did work quite well for a while, but that's how it works. So, and these teeth on both sides, they're splined. What that means is they've got grooves cut out and it's going in this little cap here, which means they can't come out. That means if you do it too tight, it can't, you know, spin in there. But I'm sure it does happen. If you do it up too tight, I'm sure it can spin in there and cause all sorts of grief. But yeah, there's not much to say on those because they're not really all that common anymore.
They don't have those in our cars.
Not in ours, no. Well, the D22 Navara, the old school Navara, they did, and that sort of era, so like the early 2000s, they were pretty big, and 105 Cruisers have got on that sort of stuff too. But I just think IFS is just way more comfortable. But they are pretty rough when you drive them, especially when they've been wound up too. Maybe from factory height, they're not too bad, but definitely when you wind them up and put big tyres on it, it's pretty horrible to drive. But
Those are the ones you see where it goes like across the whole underside, like they're pretty long.
yeah, yeah. So one on either side, it's like a second. It's almost like a I forgot the word.
Like an axle like that length.
Yeah. There's a cross member. It's got its own cross member. So you've got one for the gearbox, hold the gearbox up, and there's one behind that for these things. So they're so long. It's a whole other ball game. So if you're ever doing your clutch, let's say on a D22, that whole thing's got to come out because it's in the way. So you drop those two big bars, and then the rest of it. It's a bit of a job, but it doesn't matter. Upper control arm or UCAs is the next part. So these are one of the main parts that have to be spot on. So UCAs are a crucial suspension component that connects the vehicle's suspension to the chassis in independent front suspension systems, helping maintain wheel alignment, manage suspension geometry, and improve handling. So these ones, obviously, they're aftermarket ones. So factory ones, you sort of put them in and that's it. There's no adjustment. There's nothing like that. So when you're doing wheel alignments and stuff with no lift in your vehicle, the factory ones will be fine. There won't be anything, there's no problem. But if you start lifting your car sort of 2 inches and above, that's when there's going to be a problem. So on these ones, you can see at the back there's two nuts on the ends of those eye bushes there. And what that does is you undo those bolts, you can wind that in and out. So when you are doing a wheel alignment, if you put a big lift in this car, let's say it's a 3-inch lift, and you put these arms into it, that's going to give you probably up to 5 inches of lift to be able to work with for doing wheel alignments and adjustment and that sort of stuff. If you lift it up too high with factory arms, the angle is going to be too high, which means your wheels will be on an angle like that probably, and you'll be wearing all your tyres out and it'll drive like rubbish as well. So having this adjustment here allows you to jack your car as high as you like and then have the arms pushing it out so it's still nice and straight and flat. So you can adjust those probably up to around about 5 inches. If you do any more than that, you need all sorts of different gear, but this is probably the most common thing we sort of see is people's cars are lifted up too high and they haven't got the correct upgrades to manage it, because it's all good to have a nice high car, but it's got to perform as it should. And these are spaced out around this angle more too. So this car at the moment obviously is on a hoist, so it's at full droop. If the car was on the ground, this arm would be sitting up here somewhere, and this big curvy part here just keeps it away from the shock tower, which can make it hit and cause all sorts of damage. So that's the reason why we do upper control arms. We're lifting your vehicle just so you've got more adjustment when it comes to wheel alignments and that sort of stuff. So on the flip side, we've got lower control arm. So lower arm, or LCA, is a key component of the vehicle suspension system that connects the wheel hub assembly to the vehicle's chassis or subframe, allowing the wheel to move up and down while controlling its lateral and other movements. So same kind of setup as the upper arm. So you've got two mounting bushes here down below, and this is what goes into your wheel hub, so it comes up. So it's sort of the same as that one, just facing the other way. Yeah, so that's your ball joint, goes in that hole there. As you can see, the ball joint connects to the steering knuckle just there. This one goes the other way, so coming up. So this is your lower arm one here, and this suspension in this car is a car like mine, but this is a completely different front end than a factory one. He's got a different lower, upper arm, steering compartments, his shock and his struts all different. So this is for maximum articulation. So he's spent the money, that's a lot of money right there, but what that's going to allow him to do is have probably about 6 or 8 inches of travel, which means you go over a bump, you've got a lot of travel that keeps all the 4 wheels on the ground, or all the front 2 wheels on the ground, I should say. So that's the whole reason why people do these upgrades. Like I said, factory car, no suspension lift, not a problem. But if you start, chucking some big springs in it and wanting to do some sort of tough off-roading stuff, you don't have to do these other components.
How much would that cost?
Oh, mate.
Heavy duty.
Well, this is a Goat 4x4, I think they call it a Maxi Flex kit for a Ranger or a BT, because this is probably 10 grand. So it's the upper arms, lower arms. He's giving you a new steering rack as well, steering rod I should say. Spring, strut, the whole lot. It's a pretty cool kit, but like, yeah, I mean, he's obviously doing a fair bit of nasty off-roading stuff, so that's where that's sort of coming to play there. All right, and sway bar link. So the sway bar is this blue one right here, okay? Sway bar or anti-roll bar is a suspension component that connects opposite wheels to reduce body roll and improve handling by twisting and applying a counterforce to level the vehicle during turns or over uneven terrain. So basically, without a sway bar in the front, your steering wheel will sort of want to go left or right. It wouldn't be all that easy to stay flat. And if you drift to one side, the car's just going to want to go that one way. So the sway bar keeps it all sort of nice and straight. And the way to adjust that is your sway bar link rods. So these ones are an aftermarket type rod. On a factory car, they're just one piece, no adjustment. The link rod, connects the vehicle's sway bar to its lower control arm or strut. Its primary function is to minimise body roll and enhance handling by transferring forces from the suspension to the sway bar during turns, keeping the vehicle stable and flat. So again, once you're lifting your car up, you don't necessarily have to change this bar, but you can change the link rod. So this bar doesn't change much. So if you jack a car up, obviously 2 inches, there's going to be a bit more of a gap, from here to the mounting point for the link rod. So what you do here, again, 2 nuts, one lock nut, one adjuster nut. Put one side on here once the car is lifted, and then adjust it to where its mounting spot is. Build up nice and tight. That's good. It's been adjusted. So, and what happens is if people do lift their cars up and don't change these, or especially like a newer car like mine, they snap because they're plastic. I don't know why they choose plastic ones, but I thought it was a good idea. We've replaced numerous of those, so we always recommend to do these if you're going 3 or more. 2 inches is usually okay, but 3 or more, definitely change the link rod, because if that snaps, it just means your car's going to drive and wander all over the road. So we don't want to be doing that too much. But yeah, so for the most case, 2 inches is usually fine across the board. You don't have to change too much. Once you start getting more 3 and above, things like your upper arms and link rods, etc., definitely needs adjusting for sure. So
where's the sway bar on the utes?
So in our cars, it's literally wraps behind the strut, then comes to the front of the car. So it wraps down and sort of goes under the front arm and straight across under the body.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a pretty easy one to find once you sort of know what you're looking at.
Really, it goes like underneath, like straight down.
Straight underneath.
Okay.
Yeah.
So some of the sway bars like over the top of engines and stuff on like cars.
Yeah.
Small cars.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, ours they're all roughly the same 4x4. Some of them go behind, some go in front. The engineers work that out, but our link rod, I think in our cars, one link rod's longer than the other one. One side's longer. I don't really know why, but they've worked it out that way. The long one is the one that always breaks, because obviously there's shorter ones have got more. They're more rigid. So right, so this is the torsion bar. So that's kind of how it looks in a car without having a car here to show you. So this goes all the way back to that cross member, then all the way along to your lower arm, and you adjust it from this side here, wind it up. So you've got your upper arm, which is always going to be in these systems, your shock, and then your sway bar is probably that little link there, and that sway bar goes around the other side, but it's not pictured here. But you won't see many of those anymore. It's just, they're a bit outdated and they just worked out a better system. So, and this is the coil over strut. So this is the main one you're going to see in most dual cab 4x4s and wagons nowadays, I suppose. So you've got your strut from here that mounts onto your lower arm with the bushings I was telling you about. And that's your seat just there. So the spring sits in there all the way up. And this is actually cool to show. This is a progressive rate spring, which means the top 3 or 4 coils are close together and the rest of them are nicely spaced out, which means this takes the brunt of the impact. So that means the rest of it doesn't shunt any big heavy loads through the lower arm, so you don't feel it as much. So that's it. The suspension hanging, that's it on the ground, so everything's nice and straight. So this is on our car, Joey Boy, actually, and Blake, this is for you. Sway bar comes up and around, down to here, that's your link rod. So from there, up to the top of the knuckle, and that's that, okay? Upper arm, sitting there, with your ball joint. Lower arm, you can just kind of see it sneaking through there. So that's that one. And this is your top hat I was saying before. So that's what sits on top of your spring. And you'll see there, this top part of the spring has been cut flat or flush, which means they just made the spring as normal and then put on another machine to make that completely flat. That's what your hat sits on. And in the middle of the hat with this bolt here is a bush, which sits on top, again for a little bit of movement, and then you've got your 3 mounting holes here. So 1, 2, 1 behind the back there. The 200 series Land Cruiser's have got 4 mounting holes, just because they can. It doesn't really make too much of a difference. But that's that. And a McPherson strut, this is just one that's in most passenger cars, like just your little everyday run around cars, like little hatches. Your car's got these ones. So this has been around for a long time, okay? So it's the same kind of thing, but these ones mount, so under the bonnet, you pop the bonnet, you'll see, or in a passenger car I should say, you'll see 3 holes in the corners or above the wheels. That's for your mount at the top of your McPherson strut, and that spins with the steering. So if you turn the car, the strut's going to go with it. From here, you'll see it there, it mounts on there. There's your bolt holes on the top. This whole system will turn, all right? And then everything else is the same. These don't have an upper control arm. They've got a lower control arm. The sway bar all stays the same, but this one doesn't require to have an upper arm because it's all sort of done up here as well. So they're very common. They're a good thing. So that's sort of it. But being this is a 4x4 one, this is sort of more what we're going to be talking about or have been talking about. So anybody got any questions about suspension, IFS, springs, whatever? No?
No.
Okay, that's good. So yeah, again, this is one of those expensive mobs. So this is the GOAT people again. Yeah, lower arm. He's upgraded the steering for this particular one. Big spring, and he's got a remote canister here. What this one means is it's just another version of a strut, an aftermarket strut, which has, because obviously the strut and the shock have got oil inside. That's how it cools itself down. So what they've done here, they've made a canister which holds the liquid, or the fluid I should say, the oil out of the actual shock itself. Just basically helps it cool down, because if you're doing a lot of driving on rough roads, it's pumping up and down, it's going to get quite hot quite quickly. So that just keeps it away and it can circulate in and out of that canister to keep it cool. And for the most part, they have adjustments on them, so you can dampen the shock or the strut. You can make it firmer, make it softer, whatever you want to do, however you want to drive it. You've got all this adjustment to do that. So yours got that, I'm pretty sure. One we threw in, so that's cool. Yeah, so that's the GOAT stuff. But yeah, so basically that's sort of all there is to it, really. But yeah, no, everyone's happy with where they're at. Got a good understanding at the moment.
Yeah.
There's a couple of videos here. There's one of just a gentleman talking about those systems. They call them double wishbone systems, okay? So that means you've got upper and lower arm is your double wishbone, basically. So he's going to go through a bit about them, and then I've got another little video which shows you a 4x4 just going over some relatively rough roads and how much work they actually do. It's pretty impressive to see. So here's the first one.
When it comes to automotive suspension systems, the most common suspension architectures are double wishbone and McPherson suspension. Each system has advantages and disadvantages. Understanding that aspects can assist consumers and car enthusiasts in making informed decisions when purchasing a vehicle depending on their use case. Today, we will compare 2 popular types of suspension and we'll try to make a conclusion which fits best for you. We will start with double wishbone suspension and its pros. Improved handling. Double wishbone suspension improves handling and stability, especially during cornering. Its design allows for dynamic camber changes in the middle of the corner, maximizing tire contact with the road. This results in improved traction and control, especially on uneven or difficult terrain. Many double wishbone designs allow the rear outside wheel to toe in when the suspension is compressed. This allows the car to enter the corner more quickly. As a result, the vehicle feels more...
You see how he's turning it with, that's the little bearing on the top of the ball joint, allowing it to spin.
agile and responsive. Adjustable geometry. Double wishbone suspensions typically provide far more alignment adjustability with more camber, caster, and toe settings available. This adjustability enables the suspension geometry to be fine-tuned to meet specific driving preferences or performance requirements. Better alignment control is especially beneficial for car enthusiasts who autocross or race their vehicles. Now about cons. Complexity and cost. When compared to McPherson struts,
That's so
double
close,
wishbone suspensions are more complex and intricate in design. The system's complexity can also make repairs and replacements more time-consuming and costly. Increased weight. The additional components of double wishbone suspensions can add weight, resulting in higher unsprung mass. This extra weight may have a minor impact on fuel economy and overall vehicle performance. However, advances in lightweight materials and engineering techniques have helped to mitigate this disadvantage in modern designs. Now let's head to the McPherson strut suspension and let's talk about its pros. Easy and inexpensive. When compared to double wishbone
This is
systems,
3 mounting
McPherson
holes
strut
on the bottom.
suspensions are simpler in design with fewer components. Their small size makes them easier to install and maintain, resulting in lower manufacturing costs. This ease of use also translates into faster and less expensive repairs or replacements. Space efficient. McPherson struts are space efficient, taking up less space in the engine compartment. This enables more efficient packaging, freeing up space for other components or passenger accommodations. It is especially useful in vehicles with limited engine bay space. Good
Most
balance.
cars use that system.
McPherson struts offer
Passenger
a good
cars, yeah,
balance of
100%,
ride
yeah.
comfort and handling. Their design provides sufficient shock absorption and stability, resulting in a smooth and controlled ride. McPherson strut suspension systems strike a good balance for daily driving in economy cars and even some light-duty trucks, even though they might not match the handling performance of double wishbone suspensions. But this suspension has its cons. Limited flexibility. There are fewer adjustability options for McPherson struts than for double wishbone suspensions. This lack of adjustability might make it more difficult to fine-tune the suspension's characteristics to meet certain performance standards or driving preferences. This might be limiting for enthusiasts looking for a highly customized suspension setup. However, enthusiasts who own cars with McPherson strut suspension often have access to aftermarket options. For example, additional camber adjustments are provided by camber plates and aftermarket control arms. It's also possible that some aftermarket suspension parts provide more caster settings. Increased body roll. When cornering, McPherson struts tend to cause more body roll than double wishbone suspensions. Because the wheels are interconnected, modifications to one could have an impact on the other, potentially decreasing overall handling responsiveness and precision. Anti-roll bars and appropriate suspension tuning, however, can lessen this disadvantage. Conclusion. Every suspension system, including McPherson strut and double wishbone, has advantages and disadvantages. McPherson suspensions are better in terms of cost and space efficiency, but double wishbone suspensions are better in terms of handling and adjustability. Which suspension configuration is ideal for you will ultimately depend on your specific use case. Remember your personal preferences, your budget, and the intended uses of your car.
There you go. That makes sense, everybody? How they all sort of work in cahoots with each other? Yeah, okay. So yeah, McPherson strut is pretty much in most little passenger cars, hatchbacks, sedans. It's only when you get to the bigger, heavier cars, you're going to find the IFS with the like 4x4s and that sort of stuff. So petrol, like Hiluxes have got it, that sort of stuff. And mainly any dual cab. You know, I haven't seen the new like electric ones. I'm assuming they have something pretty similar, but that's how they sort of work. So this is just one more, just to see how it works in a four-wheel drive, going over some little lumps and bumps. So just gives you an idea how much they move around. So you can see the arms going up and down, flat out. So yeah, they're all pivoting and doing what they should be doing. Looks like a Hilux, so I think yeah, their system's pretty good. So you can see as it dips down here, the upper arm, that's where the ball joint will move so the tyre stays flat on the road. Likewise on the bottom, you can't quite see it under there somewhere. There you go. Beauty. So, where are we? I reckon that's probably pretty much it. I think. Oh, yeah, that's cool. So, one more little quiz before we finish up, but everyone's pretty confident about suspensions. You know, they've got half an idea how they go, what does what. All right. Let's see if you've been paying attention. This is the last little quiz. Then we can almost wrap it up there and go look at some cars if you want. Or you can go home, whatever works. Take a couple of minutes.
That was close.
Beautiful. Right. I'll go over them real quick at the end just to make sure, and we'll call it a day there. It's just the last piece of the puzzle. It's not usually all about actually before I get too excited. Something silly, okay, we've come this far.
Sorry.
Are we all good to go?
Yep.
Right, so number one, what does it stand for?
Independent front suspension.
Spot on. They move separately from one another.
True.
They do. Okay. Is the coil spring in the front usually around the strut? True or false?
True.
You got a question or you just stretching?
No, I'm just stretching.
Stretching, okay, that's all right. Both upper and lower control arms move simultaneously as the vehicle suspension travels up and down.
True.
True.
Sway bar keeps the vehicle from swaying all over the road while driving.
True.
Torsion bars are the long straight bars that attach from the chassis to the lower control arm of some vehicles and are adjusted to the desired height. Yep. Last one. Okay, when adding accessories to your vehicle, you need to upgrade the suspension.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Very good. Well, that seems like a success. So, thank you, fellas, for that. That was a big help.
So what would need to happen for if I wanted to
Lower it.
Yeah. No, to get bags in my car. Just out of curiosity.
All around, or just for the rear or for the front?
Might do both, mate.
Springs are gone. You have a strut, or no, you have a shock or a strut and an airbag. That's it. No springs, because that controls the height of the car.
Right.
We can talk about that later. That sounds like fun. But yeah, any other questions according to IFS stuff? Well, everyone's pretty good. Everyone got the questions right, so it seems like you've learned a bit, which is good. So, no, thank you all for that. And I just want to say